Here we go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Rescue Michigan Weekly live stream. We have no cold open this week. I thought about playing an Alex Jones video at the start of the episode to commemorate his triumphant return to Twitter, but I thought, I don't know if every panelist would approve of that. So let's just go straight to the action here. So with a little bit of further ado, there is one thing I want to give everybody watching a heads up about, and also to give people a moment to come onto the stream. We are streaming on, as usual, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Twitter. But just to give everybody a heads up, there is actually a very big fight that's going to happen in Congress this coming week. There will be an email about it in your inboxes tomorrow morning. And this regards the renewal or expiration of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which, for those who don't know, is this unconstitutional spy program that the FBI has been using to spy on millions of Americans without warrants. And it's actually set to expire at the end of the year. And Congress has been looking into this all year. At one point, Jim Jordan said FISA renewal was done on arrival. There's been hearing after hearing after hearing on this all year. And what's now happened is there are two FISA renewal/reform bills that came out of the House this past week. One from the Judiciary Committee, which is actually very good. It has a lot of serious reforms in it. And one out of the House Intelligence Committee, which has no meaningful reforms in it and actually will even expand the FISA's warrantless spy powers. And they're going around Congress, the Intelligence Committee people, and they're all telling everybody, if you vote for the Judiciary Committee, you're going to deprive the deep state of their essential tools to fight terrorism and blah, 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 blah. And the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has said, tell you what, guys, I'm just going to have a clean vote on both of them. And may the best bill win, because whichever one gets more votes is the bill we're going to send to the Senate. And by the way, for those who have been keeping track of Mike Johnson's record, this is yet another example of his weak leadership, because, I mean, he has the control over this issue. He's opting not to do it. And if you think about this, this is kind of on people that blocked Jim Jordan from becoming speaker, like John James. So let's hope that doesn't come back into play. It looks like we lost Warren, but hopefully he'll come right back. So there's going to be an email blast. We got to contact our congressman, even if they're Democrats, by the way, folks, because this is actually controversial within the Democrats. There are even some Democrats that are supporting FISA reform and a lot that are not. We want to get all of our our federal lawmakers representing the Michigan delegation on record on this. And there will be a recorded roll call vote on both of these. So look for that email tomorrow morning. All right. Now, with that, we have an esteemed panel. Some guests you have seen on the show before. Maggie Kurzweil, a state committee member and attorney who was on our show this past weekend. Matt Wilk, who's been on our show multiple times, former chair of the Wayne 6th District Committee and an attorney. And Dan Holohan, chair of the 7th District Committee and an attorney, who's joining us for the first time on the program to talk about a remarkable lawsuit filed by Kristina Karamo's attorney, Dan Hartman, on behalf of the Michigan State Central Committee. So we will be getting into that lawsuit in just a moment here. But first, since you guys, I know Maggie and Dan, you were both at the state committee meeting this past weekend. We did a whole big show this past Sunday. It's like 10 people on the panel talking about all that stuff. And since then, there has been some, and this is even before the lawsuit dropped, some remarkable emails from Kristina Karamo with some amazing theories about what happened with the, oh, hey, Dan's back, with some amazing theories about why the state committee meeting had this bizarre, unusual, two different conflicting events. So according to Kristina, there's an email she sent out on Tuesday to the state committee members, and I believe she sent it then to all the precinct delegates as well, saying, the Michigan Republican Party has opened a wide-ranging investigation into the events that led to the venue cancellation of our December 2nd state committee meeting, which was to have occurred at the Commonwealth Church in Redford. And this goes on. There was a fabricated threat of terror, violence, counter-protests. These are designed to disrupt our party's ability to meet freely, which is a little strange because I think everybody who met in person on that Saturday morning wanted to meet in person. It seems like the only person that did not want to meet in person was Kristina. But I don't know if any of you guys want to weigh in on this. I feel like I'm already starting to filibuster, and I hate to do that, especially on a panel.
I'll just add this one thing, Adam.
Sure.
On Wednesday, the party announced that they were limiting the number of guests to 1 per person. That was brand new. And then on Friday, right before this came out, maybe it was late Thursday, early Friday, they said, in addition, we want you to send us the names of your guests to register them in advance. And if they're not registered by 5 o'clock today, they won't be allowed in. So, so weird.
So, I mean, the strange thing to me is, I mean, there's a few issues here. One is there was this, I mean, we would be here all night if I was just reading statements going back and forth from different state committee members about this and party officials about this. But apparently the church itself spoke out and they said, we got these terrible, hateful, threatening voicemails. And we tried to call the party to figure out what to do, and they didn't answer. And their number didn't work, and I didn't have the right connection, and blah, 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 blah. And lo and behold, we couldn't have a meeting, except that we had plenty of alternative locations. But the state party says, no, we can't possibly meet in person. We have to have a meeting. Go ahead, Dan.
What I knew in that is you had this anonymous account that I think MIGOP alerts or something like that sent this email out that said there was going to be Palestinian protesters. I just didn't sound right to me. And then there was a post, I think on that Friday, from this Facebook group, Detroit Republicans. I don't know who's behind it. It was inactive for 6 years. That said they're going to have this Israel flag waving event in front of the church. The church got scared, didn't want to see the Middle Eastern battles in front of its property. And then they canceled it. In a Facebook comment, first is where I first saw it, to the on the Detroit Republicans in response. And then at that point is when we had to, or I should say state committee needed to find a new location, and within, I think, minutes, because this is all going down when I was running a Zoom meeting for my own district, and Multi Lakes was then picked and as a location. And then right around the same time, MRP said we're going virtual, everyone's muted. And I'm looking at the agenda on that. Something wasn't right. And I think the big thing was the Kalamazoo, or what I call the county party takeover, which, and that's been, the takeover stuff's been in the works going back since my alarm bells went up when Dan Hartman, general counsel for MRP, in either, I don't know if it's Clare or in Grand Rapids, one of the early meetings. And one of the first things he talked about with debt is charging county parties and district parties for it. And I remember at the table saying, that ain't going to happen. I don't care if it passes, it's still not going to happen. I won't allow it. So this is something that's been in the works a long time from administration, especially Hartman and Kopis.
Yeah. Paula says it was an email from Detroit GOP. Well, but there's no Detroit GOP. That's just a Facebook group. That could be anybody. And that's part of the issue is there's a standard procedure for dealing with, when you have threats and demonstrations and stuff like that, which is, easy to figure out and sort out if you can call the party, book the venue, and then, the church can say, hey, what's going on? There's these groups talking about protesting. And then the GOP can say, well, if someone does that on your property, call the police and have them arrested for trespassing. If they do it on public property, well, that's their right, and we can't do anything about that. But you know what? This is politics. It's the way it goes. It's no big deal, right? That's how normal adults can deal with this situation. Instead, there was this bizarre situation where the majority of district chairs said, we have a place. We can have a place. It's not far from the original place. Let's just do it there. And now the state party is saying, no. We don't want to have it in person. We want to have it electronically. So
after the up north drove 3 hours.
Yeah. People. Yeah. I was at this event nearby at Matt's place the night this all happened. And people right there were saying, I drove all the way across the state to go to this meeting tomorrow. Now they're telling me we were going to have it in my hotel room on Zoom, that I wasted all my time and money to come here. How outrageous
if you
is
didn't
that?
if you didn't check out and not have a hotel room any longer because you have to leave that day.
Yeah.
So you'd be taken from your car.
Well, that's the beauty of the narrative they're trying to spin, right? That it was a dangerous plot. Okay. And that this was all by design. And now they're saying the FBI, God, I pray to God. I pray to God the FBI investigates and arrests these people, because I swear it's going to be just like Russia collusion. They're going to investigate themselves so hard it's going to find out to be them first. All right. I'm making that bold hot take prediction on your show right now. And secondly, there are people on this call tonight that were there and know that the meeting holistically formed within a matter of an hour to get the place. And we had people from Matt's house literally go over to set it up. There were 30 people that know that this thing happened holistically when it was canceled. The securing of the new location. It's such a farce.
Yeah. And I would agree with everyone. I mean, I think that, when you read Kristina's email, it was concerning, because I felt that she was coming unhinged, because I think the plan in the very beginning was never to have it at the church. The problem is that the protests weren't stopping. I mean, we were all coming. So they had to go to plan 2. Plan 2 was, well, maybe we need to call in a threat, because it sure wasn't the people that were putting together the alternate location. You have to look to the motive. Who had a motive or a reason to not have that in-person meeting at that church? It wasn't me. It wasn't the people that were up there at Multi Lakes. It was Kristina Karamo. Now, maybe Kristina Karamo did not personally pick up the phone to make that phone call, but what somebody in her circle went to that final step and said, that's it. And you know what? They had the virtual meeting already lined up. Why were they asking for the names of the guests? So that when you came in on the virtual meeting, they had your name. That's exactly why. There was no other reason to do what they were doing, because the decision had been made. And if you talk to people, Oakland County made an offer. I think HEMA made an offer for several locations. Hassan found a place just a couple blocks away from the church. Almost 5 locations were in the process of being secured, and individuals from Kristina's administration said, nope, we're going virtual. Nope, we're going virtual. And guess what? They didn't even have to pay for it. They didn't even have to pay for the rental fee. It was all being kicked in and paid for. So I think her thing, there's a great meme out there that's out there on Telegram, absolutely hysterical. So MRP is actually doing an investigation. They can't even pay an invoice, but they're gonna do an investigation. It's a joke.
Yeah. I do
want to correct one thing real quick. There, at the very first Clare State Committee meeting, there was a guest policy, and there was a single guest policy at that very first meeting. But at that very first meeting, there was no pre-registering of your guests or anything like that. So I do want to make the record straight, and that we're being honest and we're being clear and transparent, that there was a guest policy at the very first meeting.
That guest policy did not surface until, I believe, the week actually going in. Prior to that, there was no reason.
Never. They did it one time before. Correct.
Yeah.
No, Maggie, you're right.
It wasn't there. It only occurred as we were approaching Friday, not Saturday, but it was Friday.
Yeah.
So that tells me the virtual meeting was in the works early that week.
The big problem here, and it's been going on for a while, and it's thematic throughout this show and through the last several months, is that this person is running the party as a politician. Lie, obfuscate, deny, try to control the narrative, instead of someone running a political organization. Now, the people on this call can probably tell you who the head of the Michigan Democratic Party is, because they know, but almost everybody in the state does not. they've heard Kristina's name over and over and over again because she's running this like a politician. Say something, deny it. Here's a piece of paper that proves you're wrong. Change the subject. You're a deep state globalist. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You're running it like you're a politician instead of a political organization. It just doesn't work. And you'll see more tonight.
Yeah, the theme with Kristina and her defenders is always everybody is lying. Everybody's out to get me. Can't name anybody in particular. You get these, like, here's what Kristina wrote. A series of anonymous email communications of a fabricated threat of potential terror violence and counter protests targeted our church venue. These were designed, everything's in the passive voice too. These were designed to disrupt our party's ability to meet freely and conduct normal business. Legal action and possible law enforcement referrals are being reviewed with counsel. It's always so vague. Yeah, Sean Lee on YouTube says, no speculation. Oh, no, that's not the one I was going to read, but there you go. Eric Gladwish on YouTube says, speculators will speculate. Yeah, that's what Kristina has been doing this entire time too. I'm sure she'll have this wide-ranging investigation to determine what, at the end of the day, is not even that big of a deal. Like, you had a meeting, you had to have a new location for it. Okay, get a new location. Why did it become a thing? But the party, when they say, this is what Kristina says, the party has opened a wide-ranging investigation. Like, they have nothing better to do. They have nothing better to do than try to figure out who tried to sabotage their meeting last week.
Who they have as a capable investigator.
Winning the next election. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
That's who they have as a capable investigator.
Good
Well,
question.
Well, here's the thing, Adam, that doesn't make sense about her investigation.
Yeah.
She's investigating why an in-person meeting wasn't held that she called. Well, guess what? An in-person meeting was held. So
She was one that
I
didn't
don't
show
get
up.
it. It would be different if she said, well, we want to investigate all these people that had all these venues. Well, it doesn't make sense. Well,
Remember
you wanted an in-person meeting, and there was an in-person meeting. So what is there to really investigate other than you are pissed that you did not get to control your virtual meeting and shut people down like you did?
Yeah.
That's what she's about.
And most of all, to amend the state party's bylaws to infringe. And that I think is a good segue for what we're going to talk about. Because last week, and Maggie, you especially, you and Patty were talking about how the state party has an agenda to invade county parties, district parties, to purge people they don't like from county parties, district parties. Things that, by the way, for all the yammering they do about these rhinos that controlled the party for years and years and years, never once tried to do. Like, we never had a problem at the county party level with the state party meddling in our affairs. Not once. Never. But lo and behold, Kristina has filed a lawsuit, which, among other things, wants a court to declare that the Michigan Republican Party can effectively strip county and district parties of their ability to even call themselves Republicans. And we'll talk about that now. Let's get into it, folks, shall we? So let me pull this up on the screen here. I've got a juicy copy of the complaint. This was not easy to find, and it is not entirely complete, unfortunately. It's missing the first page. But let me make this bigger and get this out of the way. This is starting on page 2, so we've missed the caption page, but that's okay. The plaintiff in the case is going to be the Michigan Republican State Committee. The defendants are Comerica Bank and the Michigan Republican Trust. We'll see this in a moment. So this is where it starts.
And Seymour Street.
Yeah, well, and Seymour Street also. Okay. So where it starts on page 2 is this action includes determining interest in land and or determining ownership interest in Seymour Street LLC, which holds title to the building that was the Republican Party headquarters. It's described there. So the parties, Michigan Republic. This is the kind of stuff that usually reading a lawsuit you'd skip right over, but let's read this. The Michigan Republican State Central Committee is a state major political party committee. Plaintiff provides political party services, namely promoting the interests of a political organization, the Republican Party, and its candidates, and the use, names / brands to ensure that only candidates and legitimate Republican Party members who agree with the national party platform and adhere to the Michigan Party rules are identified with the party. Now that's a strange way to start right there with that description of the state party. Because last time I checked, if you want to run for office, you just file as a Republican. You don't have to pledge an oath to any particular set of principles. And I think the National Republican Party platform happens to be very good at the moment. Hasn't always been, though. It has had issues with it. And by the way, what if the Republican Party national platform said we support amnesty for illegal immigrants? Would you mandate every Republican sign on to that? But right from the get-go, there's already this overtone of we're going to say who is a real Republican and who's not. And again, of course, like I said, the national platform might be very good. You have to look at the shoe on the other foot test and say, wait a minute, are we really saying that there's some way that the Republican Party might not allow someone to run as a Republican? Because this is where this document is actually going here. So it goes on. The Michigan Republican State Central Committee has the exclusive delegated authority to operate as the Michigan Republican Party and or the blah, 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 pursuant to the the Republican National Bylaws. Again, folks, this is a screen capture of a photo of a screen. So the image quality is not the best, but it's still legible. So this goes on. Political party.
Before you move on, I think that you need to go back to the very top of that page just real quick, Adam. I want you to read A for me, please.
Plaintiff operates under the bylaws of the Michigan Republican Party.
Keep going.
Last amended effective December 2022. I'm sure Kristina's sore about that.
Yeah,
under the bylaws
we can prove without a shadow of doubt the party is not operating under the bylaws.
How's that?
Well, the report will be out tonight.
Okay.
The number of violations that they've had of their own bylaws. And when we're reading this document, you always ask yourself, who's the we here, right? And on this call, we have former state committee members and current state committee members, none of which saw this before it was filed, voted on its filing, including.
I was just going to read that. Dennis Marburger on Rumble says, Adam, did you say the state committee is the plaintiff? State committee never voted to authorize this.
That's my point. This is what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So you can start with, do you have the authority to do what you've done and show us how? When a corporation, and Maggie has worked within 4 banks, has for better part of a decade. When a corporation undertakes something, they get authorization from their board to do so. Someone will simply ask, please present to us the resolution of your board of directors, which in this case is the Michigan Republican State Committee, to undertake this right here. They can't do it because it was never done.
Well,
it's a big O.
And I think that Matt is bringing up a really good point, is authority from the client. The client really is not Kristina. The client is the state committee. And state committee, Matt is right. Nobody saw this. Some of us are seeing it tonight for the first time. But it's a fairly extensive lawsuit. And when you get into this level of litigation, which is going to require subpoenaing documents, it's going to be subpoenaing in state committee members. Their testimonies are going to be taken because there's financial allegations are being made in here. So clearly anybody that's ever been on the budget committee is going to be a target. This is a lawsuit that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars for the state party to defend. And the problem is
not to defend. Well, wait, you're saying the state party is going to get sued on top of the litigation cost of being a plaintiff in this suit? Yeah,
absolutely. Because these defendants are going to file a countersuit. They're going to file a countersuit, and we can get into what potentially some of those counts could be. But the lawsuit itself has to be answered. And because they're making allegations, the defendants have a right to do discovery. There's a lot here. You're going to have witnesses. You're going to have depositions, tens of thousands of dollars.
Attorney fees.
Where did the budget committee approve the attorney fees for this? Well, Hartman's going to say, well, I'm doing it pro bono. Well, here's the problem, Dan Hartman. You are a witness. The professional rules of conduct for a lawyer are going to exclude you from moving forward on this lawsuit. You have a serious conflict of interest because many of these allegations involve you negotiating with various individuals, whether it's on the finance committee or whether it's on budget committee. He needs to get off of this lawsuit immediately. And where's now the approval from the budget committee to go out and land $10,000, $15,000 at a pretty big law firm to start retaining legal services to move this lawsuit forward? These people did not think this through at all.
Yeah.
No.
Right. What the next step is, is you contact counsel and counsel says, tell me what happened. And counsel's got to agree to accept the case. They got to believe your theory of the case. They're not just going to throw junk against the wall and see if it sticks. So you got to bring this and say, yeah, we'll get into the whole thing about the trust and the LLC and who owns the building. That's been my professional practice for a long time. And say, well, we think this. And counsel might look at them and say, hey, look, you go find some other attorney to do this for you because I don't believe any of this is legally live. And they can't do it. And you're right, Dan Hartman's a fact witness. So I don't know what they're going to end up doing. They're going to have nobody. What are they going to do? Kristina's going to be. She can't even do it. She can't. It's a corporation. You can't represent yourself. So I have no idea what they're going to do at this point.
Yep. All right. Let's read on a little bit here. Political party means a political party. This is not a circular definition. It has a right under law to have its names of its candidates listed on the ballot in the general election. Blah 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 blah. Party committee.
Jump in here in MCL.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
MCL 169. That is the Michigan Campaign Finance Act.
Yep.
And it handles a lot of campaign finance matters, but doesn't handle how people get elected on these committees. It just mentions the campaign finance rules. And if you run for precinct delegate, you don't have to file campaign finance reports because the MCFA can only affect those running for public office. The private office is specifically exempt from that law.
By the way, I neglected to fully introduce you, Dan. You are, in addition to being a district chair, also and being an attorney, also a professional campaign treasurer. In fact, you and I worked together when I worked for John Riley's campaign, and you were his treasurer. Am I correct in that? So you've managed...
I worked for his PAC.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So you've managed campaigns and PACs finances for a long time. You know the Michigan Campaign Finance Act inside and out. So here,
I'm always still learning about it too.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn. So
Adam, he's the guy I call when people call me and say, hey, I got this campaign finance. I'm like, it's Dan Houlihan. Here's his number. Call him. So, and we're going to get to it when we start talking about the trust and the check. I think that's worth just touching for a little bit. Dan can explain how I think the phrase is you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Real quick, Joe Brandis asked, are state committee members at risk because they have fiduciary responsibilities? We talked about this last week. The budget committee members are.
Oh, yeah.
If they voted on this and know it's bad, then possibly.
Yeah.
Like it's case by case basis.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have. I think that state committee members who sat on the budget committee that were listening to options that were being provided to them by Kopis and Hartman, their defense is going to be, well, we weren't provided all the information. You know, we asked for it. Well, did you sue for the information? Well, did you get off of the budget committee? You're still there? Well, you know, some of these people that were on the budget committee that are still there, they need to start thinking about how are they going to defend themselves when they get subpoenaed, because they're going to be subpoenaed. That bank is going to go after everybody on that budget committee. And guess what? Your attorney fees aren't going to be paid by MRP. They don't have the money. So
if you were on the board of directors of Bernie Madoff, what would you do at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, so getting back to the reading of the suit here, and we're still only on definitions, but this is interesting. Kristina says, or Dan Hartman says, political party committee means a state, central, district, or county committee of a political party or a party attempting to qualify as a new political party under blah, blah, blah. Each state central committee shall designate the official party, county, and district committees. There must not be more than one officially designated political party committee per county and per congressional district. And as if to drive the point home, pursuant to MCL, this is Michigan Campaign Finance Act, only the state central committee of a political party may designate a political party committee or county political party committee, and are limited to one per district. Now, a couple of things to say here. First off, hey, Kristina, state central committee, not chair. But secondly, they're not reading this the way it's supposed to mean, because this is for the purpose of there being legal entities at the county and district level. It's not to say that the state party can just dissolve a county party and say, no, we're not going to recognize you. We're going to recognize somebody else instead. Am I correct?
Well, this goes back to the Hillsdale case.
Someone's got to go.
That's sorry, Warren. Go ahead.
No. What I was going to say is that exact point is exactly what Maggie was speaking about last week, what Dan has said, they discussed early in the meetings. But the Hillsdale case is the precedent on this right now. And that's already been ruled that the state has no bearing on a county party. That's settled case law. It's more definitive than even the Kalamazoo case. And people need to understand that. This has already been adjudicated.
Well, I mean, let's stop for a second and understand that the whole genesis of the Kalamazoo matter, it has to do with a personal relationship, right? And that's true. And I say that because in Wayne County, you have the same exact thing. I was told that there's a gentleman who's a member of the Wayne County Republican Committee who has, count them, 3 law degrees and therefore is a very good lawyer. And when that was pointed out, that's not how it works. They moved to remove me from that committee. I think I'm still banned. I don't know, whatever. And the similar thing happened in Kalamazoo, where some people did some really dirty pool. They were removed from their county party committee for that reason. And that the one gentleman had Kristina's ear, and they went to just switch them out. That was their theory. They would just switch one group out for another. And that's not only is that not the legal role of the state party, as Dan and Maggie have mentioned, and Adam, you mentioned, it's also not legally the way things work. That's just not how it works. We're separate organizations, separate charters, separate FEINs, separate bylaws. You don't get to just come in and say, we're snapping our fingers and you're now this versus that. Just that simple.
Well, I think the logic is, if I repeat this enough in my complaint, it'll make it true. Because she says this over and over again. In fact, just to skip ahead a little bit here, there's just no other entity, including a trust, is the party. Kristina's the chair. There's a trademark, and then here
you might want to stop. You might want to stop on K or I for a second.
All right.
Is it trademark named, owned, or licensed by the? Is it
owned or licensed by the?
Is it? Because I got word I talked to an IP attorney, and I got word from a good precinct delegate that it might not exactly be right.
No kidding. I wouldn't have thought they would have made a mistake on that for some reason. I don't know why I thought that.
I want to check that one before you put it on.
It sounds like that's reasonable enough to be true, right?
It must be true. I said it, right? I mean, it says you write it down.
I can tell you where that came from, that legal theory. There is the one case in Monroe where someone trademarked the names, and then the state party at the time took care of it, and it was the lawyer involved in that, I believe, was Eric Doster, and I mentioned that because his name comes up quite a bit in his complaint.
Oh yeah,
Dan Hartman doesn't like him very much.
Yeah. You might, the person writing that might want to go check. I guess it's called a word mark. It's not my area of practice, but it's called a word mark, and you can look that up and see whether it's in place or not. Someone might want to check whether or not that's actually the case, or whether that's been canceled because you didn't do what you're supposed to do. In fact, there's a link in the chat, I think, that might be.
It's a very, very, very long link. I don't think it would do any good for me to post it on the screen.
No, probably not.
But folks on Facebook might be able to find it. It was just posted a second ago. Yeah, I was going to say that case. The thing about that case is it's like Republican Party versus Beatty or something like that, or not Beatty. I forget who it was. Whatever. Anyway, it's cited in this document somewhere. But the thing about it is that was a case where someone filed a company and started selling Republican Party merchandise. That's a very, very obvious, exactly the thing why trademark law exists to prevent you from doing. Not the same as, say, a state chair going after and saying, I'm no longer recognizing this county party. Anyway, we're going to be here all night if we don't start moving on. But here's a big one. So much so that my source even highlighted this. Plaintiff claims an interest in the following property, the real property located at 520 Seymour Street, the company itself, the trade names, Michigan Republican Party or the Republican Party, all the trade names claimed by Seymour Street LLC as filed with the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, the exclusive right to license the use of the name Michigan Republican Party,
Ching,
and the exclusive right to designate political committees and county political committees.
What's interesting, Adam, is that's part of their
that's a strange kind of
it's their claim. If you look at the relief, I didn't see it in the relief, which would be typical kind of Dan Hartman, bozo, not doing what you're supposed to do. But I think the one, just even the one above C, look, Maggie and I have been doing this for a long time. The creation of an LLC, even a single member LLC, it doesn't provide for a trade name. Seymour Street is a street in Lansing. It's not a trademarkable thing. Okay. Number two, and we'll get into about who.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah, all other trade names claimed by Seymour Street LLC. Yeah.
Come on, stop.
Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, stop me if I'm skipping over something that's important. This doesn't sound important. Plaintiff filed as unincorporated association. Current law provides unincorporated association does have legal status. They have status as a party committee. They were formed. Okay, now here we go. The defendant, Michigan Republican Party Trust, was formed and amended by a document called Michigan Republican Party Trust Agreement, effective December 5th, 2008, as amended September 3rd, 2014. I don't believe we have the exhibits on hand, folks, by the way. But they'll be public record soon enough. They'll be out. It's already public record. It'll be out Monday for sure. This document was provided to plaintiff by Eric Doster, representing the Michigan Republican Party Trust in adverse discussions regarding access and control of the subject property, 518 and 520 Seymour Street in 2023. And they'll talk about Eric Doster in a moment, so we'll leave that alone for now. But suffice to say, he was former state party counsel and now counsel for this trust. Based on information and belief, that means we don't know, but we think we could probably find out if we got discovery. There is a document that is dated December 5th, 2008, which allegedly formed the trust based on its reference in the September 3rd document. There's information and belief the trust amended its documents in 2023. This alleged trust is not recognized in PA 322, Michigan PA. This is a weird point they make over and over and over again, is that the trust is not a political organization. Yeah, no kidding. It's a business that owns a building. But they say this over and over and over again. Defendant Michigan claims interest in real property, commonly known as the let's just call it the Weiser building. Other intellectual property assets and intangible assets. Acted in Ingham County.
Adam, let me stop for a second. Let's give a little primer to the crowd.
Sure.
The voluminous crowd about why trusts exist and why they're created. Trusts have been around on this planet since before the founding of this country. Some lords and kings in countries realized that their children were bozos, and therefore they had to protect the family assets from those bozos. So they would create a trust where they give the assets over to an entity, a created entity, and that the beneficiary of the trust cannot change, because that's my bozo kid that I'm protecting my assets from. Okay, so that's been around in this country, on this planet, since before this country was founded. It's not a unique concept. And well, maybe it actually is exactly why this property was put in the trust.
Yeah, I don't think I have the article handy, but I remember reading That was exactly what this trust was created to do, was to prevent the party from selling the building to make a buck or to win an election or what have you. That was exactly why they did it, because they didn't want the building to be sold. And the people who bought the building, i.e. Ron Weiser, didn't want to have his money misspent. So anyway, Eric Doster, while purportedly acting as a Seymour Street LLC and Michigan LLC, filed corporate documents. DBA, Michigan Republican Party of Michigan, Michigan Republican State Committee. What I think they're doing here, correct me if I'm wrong about this, I think what they're trying to get at here is that because Seymour Street filed documents saying we're DBA, the Republican Party, because that's the name on the building, that somehow entitles Kristina to the building. That's the basic argument. Yes.
No, not just that, they're one and the same. So if I create an entity and I say DBA McDonald's, then therefore either McDonald's owns me or I own McDonald's, one of the two.
Yeah, which is not the way trademark law works at all.
Not the way any of this. That has been my meme all week. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And the thing is, Hartman should know that. The dude with the 3 law degrees should probably know that. He probably covered it a couple times.
Well, he didn't pass the bar, though.
That's true.
No, that's Copas you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
my hero.
The legal theory is bonkers. I went through it with the attorney that worked on our report, and he's close to a lot of these individuals and knows a lot of these individuals just because of his proximity. And like the discussion of the legal theory on some of these things is just it's absolutely incredible, which makes you like I don't want people to get lost in this, because when you look at this report and when you look at this lawsuit, when you get all the way down to the bottom of it and you start digging into it, to everyone's point, to Matt's point, from a real estate point of view, this is fanciful. From a trust point of view, this is fanciful, right? When you start talking about what they're claiming from the state committee and what the state committee is responsible for throughout the state. And, you talk to Dan and Maggie, like with the county rep, it's fanciful. All these things are nuts. This thing's going to get bounced so fast. It's going to be incredible. Yeah.
I forgot to read this. There's a quote in the Detroit News article about this lawsuit this week. And the quote is as actually Eric Doster pointed to an article in MERS, and he said he refers him to Bobby Shostak's quote to MERS: "The trust owns the building. There isn't any question. If they think they have any rights to it, they are dead ass wrong. It is black and white."
Well, and I think it'd be, you've got 3 lawyers on this panel, and I have filed in the past, complicated commercial, on behalf of my client lawsuits. But you have to be extremely articulate and very detailed and very factual, not only about your facts, but about the legal theory in which you are asserting that the other side has liability and or damages. And reading through this, this is going to become a sanction nightmare for Dan Hartman, because one of the things I would do if I were Comerica or the trust, I'd be filing sanctions so fast and so hard. And who's going to pay if the court orders sanctions? It's going to be MRP. That's where the sanction money comes from. It isn't going to be Dan Hartman paying for it out of his pocket. But this is not a carefully drafted lawsuit. It's not well researched. And I have never filed a lawsuit for a theory of law unless I've had at least 2 or 3 cases that are supporting that theory, so I can in good faith say, well, Your Honor, the case that I'm using to rely on for this count is the following. And I look at this and I'm just saying, this is just somebody angry. This is a stall tactic. This is diversion. And this is filled with sanctions. This
is a guy suing his bank, suing the party's bank, because the parties sent them a notice of default, which was another funny thing that came up in the Detroit News article. November 22nd letter from Comerica Bank attorney Stephen Roche, which is included as an exhibit in the suit, is a notice of default to the party indicating they have $509,000 in liabilities that have accrued $9,000 in interest and $700 in late fees. So, yeah, there's definitely going to be some issues of bad
Adam,
faith here.
in that one, in the lawsuit, they attempt to allege, we'll probably get there, that their allegation is that prior to their being on the committee, money was used for the line of credit that wasn't authorized. Okay. But I mean, they know that the money that they've used under the line of credit wasn't authorized. When they took over, I want to say I recall them saying something like there was 330 or 40,000 in obligations under the line of credit. Which, by the way, for the viewership, that happens every single cycle, and every single previous chair, whether it's Laura Cox or Bobby Shostak or Ron Weiser or any of these people, would just raise money and pay off. Every single time it happened. This is the one time it's different. But somehow that went from 340 to 500. You don't think that people are going to ask whether that was authorized? Of course it wasn't. There was one salary authorized by budget committee, and that's Kristina, and it's not that much money. Not 440,000 in 6 months. So
amazing. All right, let's keep on reading here. On December 7th, 2006, Lara receives a 2007 annual report, stamped as filed on December 18th, 2006, signed by Eric Doster as an authorized agent. Okay. Eric Doster was the general counsel for the Michigan Republican Party from 1992 to 2017. That's a long time, folks, for a lawyer to have one client. 25 years. And I remember, like in 2000, people were like, man, Eric Doster has been around here forever. I remember we were having issues with the state party as the Ron Paul campaign, and the conventional wisdom from the campaign was, look, you go to court, the judge's going to say, what's the general counsel's opinion about this? They're going to go with the general counsel's opinion. So we knew we couldn't beat Eric Doster in court. We knew it wasn't even worth our time to try. And by the way, folks, if you ever get political junk mail from some special interest group that's address is Commons Parkway in Okemos, Michigan, that's Eric Doster's law office's address. And there's hundreds of organizations that are registered to him. Hundreds. This is his bailiwick. He knows all of these things up and down.
Yeah.
Doster is an attorney licensed in Michigan, assistant general counsel from 89 to 92.
Stop at C, Adam. Huh? Stop at C, Adam.
Okay. The Michigan
This is
Republican
like
Party
watching a kid throw. This is like watching a kid throw a ball at a brick wall and having it hit him in the head.
Yeah.
The general counsel is an officer of the party, and as such, owes to the party certain common law fiduciary duties. Really, Dan? Do tell.
Yep.
Whoops. Oh, you owe the state committee fiduciary duties? Let's talk about those fiduciary duties and what you did in defense of those, Mr. Hartman.
Retro.
Yeah, he's got Dan Hartman. In my opinion, just by filing this lawsuit, he has violated the code of professional conduct because of his conflict of interest. He already has it. Because you're right, Matt. He's a fact witness. He can't deny it. And even these facts that are being pled in here clearly indicate his conflict of interest. He never, ever should have filed this lawsuit with his name on it. But that's my opinion. I wouldn't have done it.
And he's going to cost the party a lot of money.
As a vice chair mentioned in a Facebook comment, they were told this was going to be done pro bono. It's not going to cost anything. Anyone who's been involved in litigation, you, me, anyone on this, when I had outside counsel, bank outside counsel, nothing was free, and you didn't want it if it was free.
Matt, I will tell you this right now. The code of professional conduct applies whether or not you are being paid or whether or not you are doing it pro bono. Dan Hartman cannot escape the code of professional conduct because, quote, it is pro bono. Those rules apply to him. They do. And I know a grievance had been filed against him, and I believe it was 2003. I was reviewing that. So you could just mount.
There was a grievance filed against him last year, too.
Yes.
I want to bring it up because it was over election stuff, and I have a soft spot for people that are trying to contest elections. The problem is they didn't bring very, very robust actions.
I just want to hit this point real quick with you guys.
Yeah.
So Dan Hartman did a bunch of pro bono work, right? for a firm up in up north, I believe, in the UP. He was repping somebody, and it was some charity or something, and he did it pro bono, right? So then after the case was decided and everything else, like a year or so later, he went back and sued those people for the cost of the litigation. So this is what people understand. Even if he tells you he's doing it pro bono, there's no time frame. He can't come back and give you the bill and then try to take you to court. Now, he did win that case because the defendants didn't show up. So he's got a history of saying he's doing pro bono work, but then also coming back and suing the litigants for the money later on. I've got that case. I'll send it to you, Adam.
Okay. By the way, on Rumble, DMH Deplorable asks, is this group doing anything to salvage the legislative mess in Michigan? Well, I don't know. If you mean the Rescue Michigan Coalition that's hosting this podcast, we've been doing stuff to relieve the legislative mess in Michigan all year round. I can't say the same for Kristina's GOP, though, unfortunately. But anyway, let's move on. And by the way, what I think they're getting at here, with also about Eric Doster, is that this is a conflict of interest for Eric Doster to be an attorney for the state party while also being an attorney for the trust. Which, why would that be? Because their relationship was frictionless at the time they sold this building. But let's see where they go here. An information and belief: no consideration was ever provided to the Michigan Republican State Central Committee or the Michigan Republican Party for any assignment of the membership interest in Seymour Street LLC. So what?
So well, I have a question for the attorneys on the call. There's 3 of them, right? So yeah. If you read through this, there are 96 lines, I believe, of content in the lawsuit filing, not the exhibits. When you count through them, more than half of them say on information and belief, right? So as attorneys on here, right, would that tell you that he has the documents, or that he is, or that he's fishing for the documents? Because what this is they don't have any of this information. They're saying they think that they heard from somebody that this might be out there, so we want discovery to get these things, but there's no documents that back this up because they'd be cited, right? Not even in the exhibits, and I've seen. So, like, this is something that I think that we should come back to. This is a fishing expedition.
Well, that's why this is going to be an extremely expensive litigation for the state party.
Crazy
because Comerica now, in its discovery and in its interrogatories and in its subpoenas for documents, is going to say, please describe, when you say upon information and belief, what were you relying on? So all these allegations in here, one by one by one, are going to be going through extensive discovery, and that is not going to come cheap. And these attorneys on the defendant's side, mark my word, they're going to get their attorney fees. This lawyer should not be practicing law. Bottom line.
Maggie, why don't you describe to the crowd, when you send out the discovery request, when it's sent from, say, Comerica Bank, what do they get to ask for in the way of electronic information?
Wow.
Emails, text messages, private chats, everything they want, phone records.
Going back years and years, even?
Yes.
Anything. Yes. I think the standard is reasonably calculated to lead to the production of admissible evidence. So every piece of information that they passed around back and forth, talking about this, that, or the next thing, will go into the hands of not only Comerica Bank, but the attorneys for the trust.
Does that include, say, state committee members who are unhappy with this lawsuit and some of the stuff going on? Does that get to go to Comerica too?
Absolutely.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. And here's the thing that, well, I'm sure we'll get to it later on, is what Dan Hartman has done is that these documents are public. There's not really going to be protected information in here. The documents that are going to come out aren't protected. So what Hartman has done is he has opened up the state party to everybody to look into how the Michigan Republican Party has been operating, and how have these budget committees been operating, and how have these state committee members been operating in these committees. He is opening up the whole party for everybody to see. And what do we hear from Kristina? Oh, we can't talk about financials because we don't want the Democrats to know what we have. Well, guess what?
Yep.
In about 6 months, the Democrats are going to know everything about the Michigan State Party. This was a foolish lawsuit. Foolish.
Extremely dangerous.
It is. It is.
Yep.
Extremely.
By the way, Mark Ashley Price asked, Madam Chair, why are you not on the panel this evening? I thought that was a snarky challenge to Kristina herself, but apparently it was to Patty, who responded. She was at a Christmas choir concert. But you're welcome to join us, Patty. I think I sent you the link, so you're welcome to come on and join us if you like. Anyway, all right, let's keep going on the suit here. So now we're talking about the building. Lansing Community College sold the building. It was to be used by the Michigan Republican Party headquarters. Still named the MIGUP building. So what? Title was insured by who cares? According to the title in a search, blah, 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 blah. Stop me if I'm skipping over something important. This does not sound important.
Before you go any further, can I just make this one point too real quick
Sure.
for you guys? Now, Adam, I don't know if you guys spoke about this, but the legislature, just so you guys know, okay, the legislature passed a special carve out, literally, just so the parties could buy their respective buildings. Okay. Yeah. This is legislation that was passed just so this could happen. And just so the party could own the building the way that it does. So them saying that like their arguments later on, I want to prime that just so the audience knows that the legislature passed this just so the parties could own their own headquarters, the total of 2. This is a special law that was only passed so this trust could exist the way it does by the state government. So all the MCL they're quoting, I just want people to understand that's a fact and a reality.
Amazing.
Real quick, 15B, there's an alter title commitment stating as of 10/30/2023 that title is vested in Seymour Street continuously since January 13, 2006. So this has been in Seymour Street LLC's hands since it got conveyed, pretty much, or close to it.
Right. Well, another thing is I happen to be in this field. That means that probably about mid-October, you started your fishing expedition and you paid a title company, maybe it's $250, maybe more, to find out who owned the property, who owned the title to the property. The title company comes back and says it's owned by Seymour Street LLC, not the Michigan Republican Party, not the Michigan Republican Party Trust, which you could have found out by clicking on the Ingham County link yourself. But go on.
Dan, did you have more to add? Okay. All right. So there was disclosed interest of the Michigan Republican Party is disclosed by affidavit of interest. This is the thing you were just talking about. The taxable value is $357,000. The state equalized value is $730,000. Building owed no taxes in the summer of 2023. Blah 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 blah. Does any of this sound important to you guys? No due to conveyance that meets the Land Transfer Standards Act was ever filed to create interest in the defendant Michigan Republican Party Trust. Not a conveyance. No consideration provided to the Michigan Republican Statutes Committee or the Michigan Republican Party for any transfer of an interest in the subject property.
Well, and that's basically right there. That's like a key portion of their claim. They are claiming, I think, that the building was owned by this LLC, and that should have been owned by the party, which really was owned by the trust, which was created for this purpose by attorneys who know what they're doing. But you never paid us for this building, so therefore we own it, is effectively what they're doing. And it doesn't work that way. It never has. And Hartman maybe knows it, maybe doesn't. I don't know how bad of an attorney is. That someone just posted in the chat that a link to a case around his bankruptcy in 2010. That's pretty rare out of attorneys. But it's just so preposterous that somehow the fact that you done other things, it just makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense.
Well, this actually, Matt, you're onto something, because this actually is a pretty important section in here, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I kind of want to sow the seeds about bank fraud, and it's not bank fraud on behalf of Seymour LLC. Clearly, these allegations that are being made here are evidencing that at some point, Dan Hartman, Copus, Kristina understood that the Seymour building was not theirs. They don't pay the utilities. They don't own it. They have now admitted in this complaint that they did a title search. They know who the title company is saying owns it. Their name is not Seymour LLC. So I think an extremely bad faith pleading is occurring here, where they are actually admitting that they kind of know that they don't own the building, but they're trying to come up with a reason for a court to adjudicate the building to them. This is extremely bad faith pleading because he has the facts. He's telling you what the facts are. Well, the facts didn't quite go our way, but you know what? Let's throw this out and see what a judge will do.
Yeah, let's see if a judge will just give us this building we don't own. Which
And Seymour Street has tenants as well.
About this all year that they don't own this building. They know they don't own this building. Go ahead.
Well, here's my theory on it. My theory is that I don't know because I haven't talked to these people, but I think in the beginning, maybe in April or May, they did not know that they didn't own the Seymour Street.
Oh, Maggie, you could stop right. You loser. Oh,
we just lost her. Oh, maybe she'll come right back on.
Anyway, I will say this: they did know because they were given a set of rent. Like, you can stay here for this unbelievably discounted rent, and I believe it was something nominal plus pay the utilities.
Yeah, it was like $1 a year plus utilities.
Right, but what they did not say we own the building. They said, no, we don't want to pay rent to globalists and blah, 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 blah. And then they moved to a post office box at a UPS store.
What happened?
So, yeah, Maggie. So I wanted to bring one thing back. Remember when they were offered to be to be in this building, they were told that, rent's like some nominal number, $1, $100, plus they would have to pay the utilities. And they declined, and they moved their office to that post office box, if you recall that.
Yeah.
What they didn't say at the time was, well, we don't have to pay rent. We own it. If you owned it, why did you move out?
Why'd you move out?
Yeah, so weird. You own the building, yet you moved out voluntarily after telling them you weren't going to pay rent.
Well,
I don't know if anybody here knows about this, but I remember a few weeks ago, someone was telling me that there was some group of state committee members that got to actually enter the old party office building, where there had been rumors that the basement was flooded or some blah, blah, blah. And it was all nonsense, and the building was just fine.
Right. That too.
Here's what could be their problem. And hopefully Comerica is listening tonight.
I have a feeling they might catch wind of it without anybody's help.
Right. Here's what could have happened. They could have gone to the bank. I was in the workout section when I was in commercial lending. And what I would do is do workout with clients of the bank that were having financial difficulty. It's possible that Copus Hartman represented to the bank, either in writing or through emails, that they had an interest in their building, and they were using that interest in order to secure either forbearance or to work out a deal. Now, when you go to a bank and you misrepresent assets on a balance sheet, when you misrepresent your ability to hold an asset, when you misrepresent to a bank that you own an asset, when you misrepresent to a bank that you can control an asset, that is a major basis for fraud. So they may have had to file this lawsuit because now they may realize that they were negotiating in bad faith with the bank. They represented to the bank that they had an interest in this property. They don't know how to get the interest back into their pocket so they can avoid a fraud claim. So they file a lawsuit and say, well, you know what? We'll let the courts now tell the bank we own the building, and that'll clear us from any fraud claims that may arise because we misrepresented to the bank that we owned the property. I think that is probably what could be going on. That's just my theory.
And Adam, Todd Gilman's comment is actually a good one. Yeah. They told the rest of the world, again, following up on what Maggie said, they told the rest of the world that there was a lien on the building.
Yeah, it was in those. It's in that profit loss statement we looked at last week, wasn't there?
Right. However, they didn't really own the building, which would not be. I mean, Maggie, you've done probably hundreds of unsecured lines of credit.
Yep.
Especially to unincorporated associations. Happens all the time.
All the time.
It's been in negative every single odd numbered year for the past probably 20 years or more. They would draw it down because you're supposed to go over your skis and win elections. Yep. And Rolly, you were told that. And when they inspected the building, what did they find? Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you're going to see later in the lawsuit, they're going to say on information and belief, we believe that there could be a lien on a mortgage on it because of XYZ. We don't have those documents, but we're asking for them because we believe on information and belief. They didn't know this, and they were telling people openly on the state committee that these were facts. These were statements of facts. They're liars.
But Warren, when they got their title report, on
they knew.
October
Then they
30th,
knew, and they were still lying.
They're still lying.
Oh, here's again. The sole owner of the legal title of the subject property is Seymour Street LLC.
There it is.
What do you did this? Your Honor, I'd like to move for summary judgment given 17 of their own pleading.
Yeah. Yeah, this is bad. I'd sue him for fraud. I would do a counter complaint, and count one would be bank fraud.
They spelled Shostak's name wrong too.
Yeah, they did that a couple of times.
I forget. We might have passed it already. They spelled Seymour Street incorrectly at one point too. Anyway, now they go on. The affidavit of interest document states in paragraph 3, the sole member of Seymour Street LLC is the Michigan Republican Trust. Oh, that's a trademark violation. A resolution of the trust is necessary in order to sell, convey, blah, blah, blah. Information and belief, Robert Shostak, missing a C, I believe. Or is it spelled correctly here? No, it's SCH, is it not?
They forgot the H and a C. I think they spelled it pretty bad there.
Yeah. Lack the authority under the Michigan Republican Party bylaws to execute this affidavit. Sure.
That makes no sense. The affidavit is by who? It's by the trust or by Seymour Street.
Yeah.
And again, this is another one. You're throwing the ball against the wall.
This is a building. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Haven't they said this is a building the state party never owned?
Yes.
Never owned. It wasn't like there was an unlawful conveyance from the state party to this trust. It was the trust always was the owner of the building. It was never the state parties.
They lack the authority to do dozens and dozens of things and have done them anyway.
It's amazing. Joe Brandis asks, why did the Michigan Republican Party allow LOC? What's LOC? Line of credit to go into default. I think they had no choice with the
They refused to pay their interest.
No, actually not true. What Dan said. Dan Houlihan just said it. They refused to pay the interest. The only payments they've missed strategically have been Octobers and Novembers. And to Maggie's point earlier in this podcast, the Comerica Bank said, hey, all you got to do is pay your 2 payments in arrears and the payment that was due in December plus the $700 of late fees, and the loan will go back to good standing. Now, they've never made a principal payment on the loan, but here's what I want people to understand about this line of credit, okay? The line of credit, Kristina used it. She put another $50,000 on top of what Ron Weiser left it at when she left. So she's pulled money out of the line of credit. All right. And now she's refusing to make the interest payments. This is all in the report. And the report, I think, is going live right now.
Cool.
Well, and I think that
where do we find this report, Warren?
It's going to be sent out to every single delegate in the state and every single state committee member, every county chair, every executive committee in the entire state first. And then I'm sending it to every journalist in the world.
Wonderful.
Okay. And that's an important point that Warren is bringing up. when you do a workout with a client that's having financial difficulty, banks don't like to sue. What they want to do is to work it out. And then once they get it worked out, make another credit decision as to whether or not credit should be extended anymore. How capable is the client able to service the debt as you're moving forward? In this case, I found it very interesting that Kristina made all the payments on the line of credit until just lately. There's a Comerica article out there stating where Comerica actually stated on the record that the interest payments, as Warren said, October, November, December hadn't been made. All the bank wants you to do is called curing the default. So we want you to come in, cure the default. Maybe they could have come in and cured the month of November. The bank would have entered into a forbearance agreement. I'm just letting you know kind of how it works. Would have entered into a forbearance agreement and said, okay, you came current with November. We'd like you to come current with October. We want you to come current with November by December 31st. And then we want you to come current with December. And then they would set out a payment plan of getting those interest payments in line. Here is the thing I find very interesting. I have reason to believe that there was a discussion with the budget committee, and Kopis and Hartman may have been there and said, here are your options, budget committee, in terms of how we're going to deal with our financial mess. We can either sell the building, we can do this, we can do that. They never, ever disclosed to the budget committee that one of the other options would have been just to sit down and cure the payments on the line of credit, the interest payments. So that option was deleted from the discussion with the budget committee. To me, that is, I have to ask myself, so why was that deleted when all you had to do was come current with the payments? And I'm telling you right now, the bank probably would have done it. And if they weren't told that that was an option, then I think clearly there are some motives that are nefarious as to why they're filing this lawsuit. And we have to look at that. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but anybody on state committee right now, if that is true, that that option was not provided to those people that were trying to do their job on the budget committee and make a financial decision on behalf of the party, and that option was left out, Kristina Karamo needs to go, and state committee members need to start taking control of the party and righting this ship. She needs to go because this is wrong.
I fully agree. And to Mike Swope's comment, yeah, I tried to run one of our last county party meeting. I'm going to try and keep trying. This is absolutely out of control. Jeff Fuss says, KK is having a lunch broadcast. We'd like to sit in on Covfefe with the co-chair on Friday morning. She won't let you speak. So what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, Adam, I would point out, I think that's in a lot of the conversation she'll have is about emotions and people being mean to her and this and that.
Let's just globalists. Yeah.
Let's just stick with the facts. The facts are following, and ask these questions, and ask not every committee, but most district committees have a budget person. Ask them, hey, were you told about this? You're on policy committee. Were you told about these things? And if the answer is no, how do you defend her when the facts are so awful? So
yeah.
The criminal.
I saw a comment on Rumble early on that said, someone said, so we lost in 22 and 20, and you want to put the same establishment types back in control? # support Karamo. Well, first of all, in 2020, we did not lose the legislature. And secondly, part of the reason we lost in 2022 is because already the grassroots was out of control, going against Ron Weiser and alienating him insanely. And besides that, there's a whole comedy of reasons why we lost in 2022. And that does not mean that things are going to be better this time around. No, it's going to be a lot worse. And one more comment on Rumble I wanted to read. Where'd it go? There, 221 says, State Committee, are you listening? Are you aware of what you are ultimately responsible for? They better be listening. I'm going to make sure my State Committee members are aware of this stuff. I know we got plenty of them watching right now. And everybody, you need to let your State Committee members know some of these things because a lot of them don't know how bad it really is. Should we move on? I think we should move on. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. We might not get through this whole thing tonight, folks. We're only 9 pages in, and it's a 33-page document. But we might be able to start going a little bit faster. Guys, stop me if I'm scanning and I'm going too quickly here, but this is just more, unimportant details, I think.
I make sure I shut up.
Okay. The original operating agreement is not in the the state party's records. Why would it be?
And why would it be? It doesn't have to be. So that there's no reason for that operating agreement for Seymour LLC to ever be in the hands of MRP.
Yeah, Kristina requested these records. They're not getting them to her. Eric Doster has not answered. It's because that's not their business. He doesn't have to answer. The current chair took office. All computer records were deleted by the previous administration. Administration was denied access to certain data contained in the server. No computers. That happens, folks. When you get elected to Congress, if the previous member is from your own party, they'll let you have their constituent files. But if they're not, they're going to throw them on the garbage. That's how that goes.
And then the data they're also referring to is data that is purchased, right? They're under the assumption that data trust is free and that there was a data trust held within the trust itself of the Michigan Republican Party, which is a false accusation on its face. They didn't have any money to buy data.
Data is usually contracted anyway.
Correct, Dan, 100%.
All right, anyway, so
Scribner list. I use that.
Moving on. I think this is all stuff we've pretty much already covered. Let's see. Oh, this is funny. Discovery process will yield the documents and complete the information related to solve the mystery of the ownership of the membership of Seymour Street LLC.
It's not even a mystery.
It's not a mystery.
This whole document is talking about
and it's not a good use of judicial resources. And that's what the judge is going to look at and see. And the judge is going to say, so let me get this straight. You're suing me so that you can get a copy of an LLC agreement between two things that are not you. That's what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Sanctions. This is a lawsuit just begging for sanctions. It's going to cost the state party tens of thousands of dollars.
I think it could cost them more.
Yeah. Well,
it should cost Hartman and whoever else is behind it personally that money.
Yeah. All right. So now the Michigan Republican Party Trust. On September 3rd, 2014, a document entitled the Trust Agreement was created, bearing the signature of the chair, Eric Doster, the lawyer. The trust agreement.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I don't think that Doster is going to be representing the trust in this. I think they're going to go after a big, huge firm that's going to put a hammer on our head.
Well, he can't, Warren. He's going to be a
He's a witness.
He's a bad witness.
But that's my
very
point.
Good one.
Yeah, but my point to that is that these people that are in this trust, they have financial means.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This is all the former state chairs that have access to millions of dollars.
Have exorbitant financial means. This is going to be a disaster. It's going to have a real chilling effect for people that are going to be involved, because it's going to really show the state committee finally how serious the game they've been playing is by letting her go on and do these things in their name.
Yeah,
Weiser made his money in property.
So
McKinley, that's his company.
Exactly. Weiser doesn't know anything. And by the way, so do the others. So does Bobby Shostak.
Shostak
Yeah, Bobby Shostak and Ron Weiser have created probably 1,000 different LLCs over their time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the whole thing is just nonsense. And anyone who has any legal background knows it. It's a typical obfuscation, and this is what they do. They have no facts to stand on, so they just throw this. Like I said, this is like the ball hitting the wall, as Maggie's been saying over and over again. They're going to do this, and the other party's going to go for sanctions, and who's going to pay it?
Looks like the document went out, people.
Cool. Well, there you go. I don't want to pull it up live because A, it'll be very distracting, and B, we
no. This is for another time. This is the business at hand for sure.
All right. So anyway, there's this trust agreement that exists. Whoop-de-doo. The disclaimer that the Michigan State Committee, which is the state central committee of the Michigan Public Committee, not included as the grantor. So what?
Well, they didn't own it. That's why.
Exactly.
They didn't own it. That's why they're not the grantor for Pete's sake.
So this is going on. It's more yada, yada, yada. The fact that it's unincorporated design, this has nothing to do with anything. This is just going on and on and on. let's look at this for a second and see, and maybe you guys can clarify for the audience why this is a bunch of nonsense. There are filing requirements for the collection and use of money under federal law, which is regulated by the FEC. Requirements that money be held as property and bank accounts in the name of the Michigan Republican Party.
No
It's all
shit,
irrelevant.
Sherlock.
Yeah,
Speak
now
my
they're
language.
FEC experts. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the state party has some other issues with the FEC that we talked about last week. So let's just move on. The real property was titled Seymour Street. Yep.
You just killed your case.
Yeah.
Again, you did this in 2006. That's 17 years ago. So 8 different state party organizations, if they're in two-year cycles, came to the conclusion that, yeah, this was fine. You get to Kristina Karamo's administration, and led by Dan Hartman and Jim Koppas, and they're like, no, we actually own the building and can sell it to pay our debts back. Come on.
Well, you have clearly defenses. The bank and the trust can clearly argue, statute of limitations if you wanted to, contest the validity of the trust, latches. You don't have a defense for waiting almost 20 years to decide who owns this building. So just I think on statute of limitations and latches, the case goes. It just goes.
Yeah.
The only question is when do they want it to, Maggie? Do they want to punch them for a couple of rounds first? By the way, we'd like our discovery first. We're going to file a judgment. I certainly would do that. I would say, okay, here's my discovery request to you, and we're not going to file an answer. We're going to file a motion to dismiss, and we want all this information from you. And then the motion to dismiss is going to include a movement for sanctions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On Rumble, Hansi J says, just like Trump got stabbed in the back, so shall all the MAGA patriots. I wish you the best of luck standing with evil. I will pray for you. Yeah, I'd pray for Kristina too.
Yeah.
The circular reasoning of this circular reasoning. Okay, let's try to unpack what she's talking about here, or Hartman. The circular reasoning of this statement of the 2014 document is that the grantor could not own real estate, or is it? Is this just, are they just playing word games with the trademark stuff again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I figured. So the statement of the purpose of conveyance is absurd, and therefore evidence of fraudulent intent. Sure.
I like how they're trying to say that the people that bought the building, right, are trying to keep and retain the ownership to enrich themselves. When the building, we just talked about Showstack and Weiser, right? When the building itself is probably $1 million, total asset. These people are billionaires. They have hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, this is not like the grift that they're trying to put on the party. It's lunacy.
Ron Weiser bought the building in the first place. It was him and Peter Secchia. I remember when it happened.
Yeah, and it's just like her saying that Ron Weiser left us in all this debt, when he actually is the one that put all the money in to pay all the debt himself personally last cycle. I mean, it's such a farce. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So here's quoting from the trust documents. The trustees are empowered to determine in their sole discretion how to use the trust property for the use and benefit of the grantor, whether or not the then current chair and treasurer of the Michigan Republican Party or the state committee necessarily agree with the determination of the trustees. So
I'm sorry, I can't anymore. That's the paragraph in the trust that describes exactly why Kristina cannot sell this building. It could not be any clearer.
Yeah, it's exactly what that's saying. Whether or not the then current chair and treasurer want to do something with it, the trustees decide what to do with the property. It's right there. That's amazing.
It really is. I mean, it is I would love to have this if I were teaching civil procedure somewhere. I'd send this and say, identify all the errors. How many different technical mistakes and factual mistakes were made here? And it would be like dozens. Why did you just admit you don't own the building? Why did you just admit that the trust document doesn't give you the authority to sell the building?
Yeah.
See, that's a very good question. And that's why I need to go back to what I originally said. They may have represented to the bank that they in fact did own the building. And that potentially could be fraud in the negotiations of the debt or the line of credit. And now they need the court to step in and say, yeah, you do own the building. So therefore, they somehow are relieved of their prior misrepresentations. I think there's an underlying criminal bank fraud that's possibly here that they may have recognized that, hey, we better get this issue cleaned up because we could be held liable for this. That's just my theory.
So in this paragraph, it says the 2014 document purports in Article 3 to transfer the property rights from the Michigan Republican Party to the Michigan Republican Party Trust with recognition. Well, first of all, they don't cite Article 3, so I don't know what it actually says.
Capital.
Huh?
Capital recognition.
And not only does it recognizes the interest diverge, and it says very clearly whose interests prevail.
Yeah. And then there's where they fabricate this conflict of interest with Eric Doster. The attorney for this transaction owed certain duties to the Michigan Republican Party as an attorney licensed in Michigan that were breached by this conflict of interest.
What was breached?
Well, let's start with this. I would be interested, and if the folks at Comerica are watching, I would really appreciate if you would add this in there. I would send for discovery all the emails from Jim Coppins, and if any single one of them provided any stitch of legal advice, I would bring him before the state bar for the unauthorized practice of law.
Absolutely, and absolutely. And here's another branching out from that discussion on this is, speaking of the building, if I were Comerica, I would subpoena and ask for every profit loss statement, every balance sheet statement that they have issued. And I would look on that balance sheet and I would say to myself, okay, we're looking at 6 months of balance sheets, and the bank is not, and the property, the building is not listed on the balance sheet as an asset. But all of a sudden now we have this balance sheet that comes out in November, and the building is now listed on the balance sheet as an asset.
For posterity and being correct, just so we all know and understand this, the party in the past has placed the building and depreciation on balance sheets, okay? It doesn't negate the ownership from the trust, though, but it has been done in prior administrations, Maggie, just so you know. I've researched it, and it has been on former MIGOP balance sheets.
But not this year.
No, correct. Yeah, it just got added this year, correct.
It just got added in the past month.
Correct.
I think. So was that balance sheet being used in negotiations with the bank to show that they had sufficient assets? Because that's why you have a balance. That's why you have a balance sheet. Because you're showing, you do a balance sheet because you're showing somebody how much money you have. You're representing to somebody, I have assets that are worth this much money. This is what I have. So if that balance sheet shows up now, and it's the only month that they show that that building is on there on the balance sheet, I would say there is bank fraud blooming on this lawsuit, because now they wanted to show to the bank, we own the property. Here's our assets in our balance sheet. I'd want to look at the balance sheets from, March, April, May, June, and July, where they didn't have it. And I don't think these people are smart enough. Somebody's going to turn. There, you pull in that treasurer, you pull in a prior treasurer, and they are not going to lie for Kristina or Kopis or for Dan Hartman. They're going to tell the truth. And they're going to say, that building was not on the balance sheet. Yes, this was here and this was there. They're going to get caught.
Yep. Amazing. Good point there, Patty. Kristina did not know who to trust, and she got bad advice from some bad people, and she hasn't still apparently yet learned. All right, let's
go ahead. Keep going.
Let's keep going. I want to read this next part. This is just funny. On information and belief, the actual intent was to transfer governance of the asset from plaintiff, which is governed by an elected body of delegates and an elected chairman for a term of office, to a trust run by a gang of trustees that know better than the people elected to manage the assets. Yes, that's right, Kristina. That's exactly right. Your chairmanship is exactly why they did this in the first place.
I was a precinct delegate in 2006, 2007, 2008, and I was a state delegate at most of those conventions. As just the low end regular old precinct delegate or state delegate. My opinion at the time was toward this building being gifted to the party from Weiser and Sekia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting this this building for us. So that's what the delegates' view was back in those days. I never heard any complaints about this until this year.
Yeah, when a guy gives millions of dollars to the state party, you say thank you. When a guy funds Unlock Michigan campaign, you say thank you. When a guy funds an effort to recruit poll workers to help combat election fraud in 2022, you say thank you. But these ass roots do not have that same sense of
and I'm
gratitude.
a critical, and I'll call out former Chair Weiser and some decisions made at times.
Sure.
I've done that. So
yeah, but that's called balance, right? That's called being fair.
Yep.
He gets credit for the good things too, and he's done a lot of them.
Yep. I'm skipping ahead, folks, because I want to get this. I want to get us through this tonight. We're almost only about halfway through, but I think we've gotten through the most important points anyway. A lot of this is now just more of the same.
No, those
bad faith.
Back up one. There's another one in there, and it basically said that if 75% of the state committee, if you scroll back up, wants to change that trust by a 3/4 majority rule, they can do so. Override the decisions of the trustees. Have they? Have they?
Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Dan, right there. It says they can do that. Did they? Did they try? Was it proposed?
Not in front of me.
Not in front of anybody. They wouldn't get a three. They're going to be closer to a 3/4 vote to remove her, which is the standard they have to meet. The other way around. It's right.
Well,
again. This is all sanctionable
behavior. To amend the bylaws, and then they only need 2/3 to remove her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. And this is, well, let's read this part too. The trust purportedly acted to unilaterally alter this declared rights purportedly agreed to in 2008 and 2014 to require a 100% unanimous vote of the State Central Committee, evidencing a further intent to transfer power. I mean, first of all, what do they mean purportedly?
A good question.
It means they don't know. They think.
Means they're making this shit up.
Yep.
But it's further evidence, citation needed, of the bad faith in that they create another fantasy that a party to an agreement, should the court decide this trust document is an valid agreement, can unilaterally alter a material term without the consent of the grantor who is the beneficiary. Isn't that how trust normally work?
Who's the beneficiary?
Right there. That's the whole point of a trust. The whole point of having a trust is that we don't trust you. We don't trust you to manage the building. We don't trust you to manage the assets. We have the right to change it however we want. I think there's 13 trustees. And frankly, a lot of them didn't get along from time to time, right? Yeah. You got the Shostacks and Laura Cox and Ron Weiser. These people were political rivals big time. But they all agree on one thing.
Yeah. Next paragraph. Even more interesting. Now, to me, this is like a red flag to a judge. When a lawyer says, even more interesting, is like, I'm going to just throw this out here and let you infer something fishy is going on here rather than try to make a cogent argument as to what the point is. Even more interesting is that the 2014 document presented claims in Article 1 that the plaintiff is not a beneficiary, but clearly identifies the plaintiff as a beneficiary in Article 4. And the beneficiary that has rights and amendments to protect his interests, albeit limited ones. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Don't sell it.
Yeah.
This document appears to have altered the status in Article 1 in a thinly veiled attempt to remove the plaintiff as a beneficiary, or is poorly worded as drafted to permit ambiguous interpretations.
It's not ambiguous. The plaintiff was never a beneficiary. The plaintiff just wasn't.
Yeah. The entire concept of this trust and any board of trustees controlling the property rights of the Michigan Republican Party is fiction.
Oh my God.
If I say it often enough, I'll make it true. And this goes on. You know what? Let's stop me if I'm skipping over something. I'm going to go quickly to the claims. Let's just get there because we've gone through plenty. The plaintiff, you know, I mean, we've been over this before. The plaintiff has not received an accounting because you're not entitled to one.
You're not entitled to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what? Adam? Adam, that's like me alleging. You know what, Adam? I'm going to sue you because you won't allow me to look at the payments you're making on your mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah.
What right do you have as a third party to look at somebody else's finances unless you actually have a reason to do it or authority through the court?
Yeah.
Just read E. It's like,
yeah. The bad writing caught me. And in irony, the sole right to modify the rights of the beneficiary have purportedly been passed to the trustees, depriving the plaintiff of its obligation to govern itself as a grassroots organization of delegates that elect representative leadership and have created a shadow organization with control of the assets of the party.
How?
What? It doesn't even make any sense.
How?
Well, there was this theory, Adam. We gotta briefly touch on it. There was this theory that we had in Wayne County that when I heard this from a lot of precinct delegates, that they suspected that the party was really sitting on tens of, not hundreds of millions of dollars, and that once they took over the party, they would have all that money in their pocket. And then we had a change in our area, and the people came and they asked me to be their treasurer, which I did. And I said, congratulations, guys. You literally have an empty bank account. Where's all the money? There is no money. There never was any money. That's not how it works. They raise money. They spend it to win campaigns. They didn't believe it. So we dug and dug and dug, and it was, of course, correct. I think it's the same thing here at the state party. They came in and suspected, well, Ron Weiser's a billionaire and Bobby Shostak's awfully close. And therefore, there must be millions of dollars they're sitting on just hiding from us. And all we have to do is take over the party, and that money's ours. Not this building. It's owned by a trust for that exact reason.
Yeah. By the way, on Rumble, Hans EJ says, the Republican Party hates us. He also says, listen to these people. They speak of Karamo like Romney speaks of Trump. And I read his comment earlier and made the kind of glib remark that he was talking about Kristina being the evil one. But we should hit this on the head. You know, you guys,
I'll just say this with Trump
black and
real
white
quick.
thinking about this stuff. Just because the establishment is corrupt doesn't mean that anyone in the grassroots is blameless for anything. And that Kristina, being someone who was not qualified for the job, who's lying to everybody, committing crimes, hurling accusations everywhere, mismanaging the party, isn't a serious problem. And it's not this black and white world where you're either the grassroots or you're the establishment. You can be you can be concerned about the corrupt establishment and still also be concerned about yahoos running the party into the ground, because at the end of the day, EJ, Kristina's job is to get Trump elected, and she's failing at it. And if you really are a Trump supporter, and by the way, we are Trump supporters, we want the party to replace its leadership with someone that might actually help him win. So I'm done ranting about that. Dan, if you want to chime in, you were going to say something.
I was going to say,
you're welcome to add.
Trump dropped $100 million of his own money in 2016 to win. And when it talks about money, Trump came through with the money for his campaign, and people always forget that.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people when I do grassroots leadership schools is broke groups don't make change. So if you want to be successful, you better fundraise. That's just the reality, folks. You might not like it. That's the way things are.
Look, and I'll put it this.
This panel is very high IQ. Why aren't you guys running for office? In my case, Barry, because my time is better spent helping other people run for office who are in even better shape to run for office and do the campaigny stuff, which is something I'm probably looking forward to doing this next year. But I'll let others answer that if you like.
Well, I mean, Adam, I'll just put it this way to the gentleman who has that position. In last, August, I had a party at my house. It featured Ryan Kelly, Matt DePerno, Maddox, and Kristina. They all spoke. We were all on the same page. And if you ask the people who were on that page at that time whether they support Kristina, they do not. And they do not because it's not because of a lack of heart. It's because of a lack of competence. She has surrounded herself with people who were not in political office, were not in position to make decisions they should be making. Coppice, Hartman, Studebaker, Labadie, all these guys, these are not the right people. And in a perfect world, they would be removed and she would surround herself with people that knew what they were doing, but it's not a perfect world. So why are we taking this position? Not because we've moved, but because she's gone off the reservation.
I voted for her. I voted for Karamo's second round. And so I didn't even do a third round. I did second round. I donated her Secretary of State campaign in the general election. My better half had a fundraiser for her, and I made sure I donated to that. And I voted for her for Secretary of State.
Yep.
She's still better than Benson. But
I voted for Secretary of State in the convention, the nominating convention, and in the general election. And after Scott Greenlee was lost in the contest for state chair, I voted for her over Matt DePerno. And by the way, folks, I think Matt DePerno would have had the same issues, honestly. He's not exactly known for his extremely successful election-related lawsuits himself, but, you know.
I thought she had
shoulda,
potential if she had good hires. And
that's the other thing, too.
Hartman started my doubts. Coppice solidified them.
Yeah.
And I also supported Kristina in her Secretary of State candidacy. Put out a lot of signs for her, did what I could, got a lot of people to vote for her. I also voted for her for state chair. But things have changed. And I think you have to make a business decision. And I think what's real important for state committee to understand, you know, I actually talked to a state committee member who said, well, you know, my district is all Kristina people and I don't dare vote to remove her. I said, you know, you're at a point now where you're beyond your district. You need to start thinking about the average Republican that's living in a blue collar town that
4 million voters
that wants to just vote for a Republican. You are beyond that. You need to start thinking about the Republican voter in the state of Michigan. And where are those people going to be next year when they're given options to vote for a senator and a congressman or a state legislator? And we don't have an operating party. Are you going to go back and say, well, I kept my pledge to my delegates that were pro-Kristina? You know what? You don't belong on state committee because your responsibility is to every voter in the state of Michigan. Every voter. Every
by the way,
Republican voter.
and Barry Altman just said, I meant that literally, no, sorry. I think I was I briefly answered your question, and then we were talking about a separate person's question on Rumble. So sorry about the confusion on that, but I would just to follow up on your point, Maggie. Yeah, if you're a state committee member and you're saying, and I have heard this from some of them, well, but a lot of the precinct delegates in my district still support Kristina. Well, then you should be talking to them and setting the record straight with them, because they probably don't know all of these things. And also, in addition to that, by the way, be a leader. You know, at the end of the day, as Maggie said, you know, your loyalty is to the Republican Party as a whole, and we're not going to win if we have these kind of problems. And
if you're a state committee member, that means you're a member of your district committee. If you asked your district committee basic financial questions and they refuse to answer and refuse to do, if they had these things happening, defaults, if your district committee chair defaulted on a line of credit somehow, would you vote to continue them in office? The answer is no. You wouldn't tolerate that from your county. You wouldn't tolerate that from your district. You shouldn't tolerate it from state GOP.
Yeah. John Smith raises a great point in this comment too. When I'm out at 10 p.m. with my 9-year-old daughter putting out Karamo signs on a school night, and to be told now that I'm deep state, kiss my ass. Yeah, all the time. Kristina and her supporters. Everybody who doesn't support Kristina is an agent of the deep state, is a member of the swamp. She, all the time, every time she opens her mouth, practically, she's bad-mouthing Ron Weiser, calling him a traitor, saying the state party was never anything other than a grift. And folks, I've said over and over again, I will say again, the normal state of the party is that it's a welfare office for lazy consultants. That's true. Yeah. That does not get to even that does not get to the point where you're, as Kristina does, constantly disparaging everybody that doesn't like you. And the reason why we don't like you is because you lash out constantly at us. I remember before she got the state chair vote, she was going around complaining about Rescue Michigan's part of the problem. Yeah, because we actually talk about these things. Yeah, Joe Brandis says Alinsky tactics taught by Labadie. Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but maybe. I don't know that Labady's behind any of that kind of stuff, but it is Alinsky-esque in how they operate. There's no question about that. All right, let's keep scrolling through this and get to the claims, and then we'll call it a night. This is all just more of the same.
I think the relief that they're asking is the biggest part of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to get to is the relief.
Okay, good, because this is fancy.
Yeah,
this
count one, count two. This is all more of the same. And I can update this with the link in the description for a copy of the lawsuit, which it'll be everywhere soon enough.
I just say I think Eric Doster is going to have a field day with these guys.
Yeah, I would say, Adam, while you're scrolling through that, like get to crystallize it for everybody on.
Yeah.
Right now, the 12th, Wayne 12th, is working on getting their candidate elected, which would stop the House from passing, the Michigan House from passing this nonsense they've passed so far. Okay? Because then it would be 55-55 at best, and that's a tie. There's no tiebreaker in the Michigan House. So all that stuff grinds to a halt. A fully functioning state party would be pouring resources into Westland and saying, hey, we got to get this person across the finish line, because the person who's put their name out there is a good candidate with good support. Love to do it. What are we doing? We're suing, claiming we own a building we don't own.
Matt, and I want to go a step further. The only way to do that is to put funds into the state account, right? But they keep funneling all this money into the federal account because they're pot committed there from the mistakes they've made. There's only $5,000 in the total of the state account. So there is no way any state candidates are going to be helped or assisted in 2024 right now.
Yeah, Paula Nacke, who is in that area, says, crickets from the state party for support for that special election. That is absolutely critical that we win, but we have no ability to win. Well, other than the HRCC probably has some money. I'm just going to stop at this moment real quick, and then I'm going to move on. But I want to highlight this again, because this is, and if anyone wants to comment on this further, another big piece of this lawsuit apparently is mushing together property rights versus trademark law, and saying that, because I'm the Michigan Republican Party and only the Michigan Republican Party can call itself the Michigan Republican Party, that therefore this other entity called the Michigan Trust is their property is our property, is what they essentially seem to be saying. And here they're saying this again, but we talked about this a little bit earlier, but that's what they're doing again here. Does anyone have anything you want to add on that before I move on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is going on here with the trademark is really, you got to look behind what is the purpose of them claiming trademark. It's really not because of the property. That's just a little component.
Counties.
It's the counties. What they want to be able to do is they want to be say, okay, you know what, Oakland County, it says Oakland County Republican Party.
Yeah.
Republican.
Licensing.
So we want a franchise fee now for you using the word Republican. That's what they want to do. Every county in the state of Michigan has Republican in it. So they can now go to every county and say, you know what, Oakland County, you had a pretty successful fundraiser. Your franchise fee is going to be, $60,000 a year. And to you up in the Upper Peninsula, you don't have real big fundraisers, but your franchise may be, maybe $5,000 a year. Otherwise, then you just have to call yourself this associated group of patriots. because you won't be able to use the name Republican in your county name. This is a revenue stream that they are attempting to get legitimized through the courts.
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly
all
right.
hiring. I think they're trying to destroy the party. The brand will be so damaged after something like this that it'll be impossible for fundraising to come back. And this is literally a burn down strategy. These people are, I think they're terrorists.
Yeah, I agree. And you guys should check out the interview I did with Warren several weeks ago now. It's been maybe 3 weeks now, where you went into that in greater depth in Kristina's bizarre Las Vegas company that's doing the same thing in other states too. All right, real quick, let's just get to the end of this here. More of this stuff. And like I said, we have to go quick here because there's just too much of this. Okay, so here's the plaintiff alleges all the previous paragraphs under the facts that are here, and there's an actual controversy between the plaintiffs and defendants concerning the rights of the Michigan Republican Party acting under the authority of the Michigan Republican State Central Committee and the authority usurped and claimed by the Michigan Republican Party Trust by its trustees, claiming the right to own the subject property of the Michigan Republican Party, including the subject property, Seymour Street LLC, and that therefore the court should act to declare that the Michigan Republican State Committee, the Republican State Central Committee, the MRP, Republican Party Michigan, are the same entity created by the authority of the Republican National Committee, recognized by federal and state law as having exclusive rights to the name Republican Party, exactly as you were saying, Maggie, and the authority to designate to each district and county committee the right to use the name, control, and licensing. That's what they were asking the court to do.
That's it right there.
Because of this complete gibberish about this issue of the building, they're trying to tie in their attempt to steal a building with their attempt to take over county and state and district committees. So the title of the stream, folks, you probably thought it was being a little hyperbolic. Let's review the Kristina Karamo lawsuit to take over every local GOP group and steal a building. That's what this is. That's what this is in black and white, or black and yellow, I guess, in this document here. The state and the other thing they're asking the court to do is to separate its status from being unincorporated, blah, blah, blah. To declare the plaintiff, Michigan Republican Party, by its authority as a political party and govern exclusively by its officers and bylaws as the sole member of Seymour Street LLC. They want to take the company. Literally, yeah, give us the company. Give us the trust. Give us the whole company. Not just the building, the company itself. Declare them the owner of the property. Declare that the building is not pledged to defendant Comerica Bank and is free from any claim by Comerica Bank. Well, it sounds to me like the bank doesn't have a claim on the property because it's the trust property, not the parties. But that's a separate problem. And that any conveyance of interest in the trust by assigning the membership interest is invalid. Membership interest in Seymour Street belong to the Republican Party, or alternatively declare what rights there is.
Adam, let me put a finer point on what you've been alluding to the whole time, just so everyone listening, because there's a lot of people who are listening who are maybe PDs or maybe active in their county party but no further. And it's key to point out here that they are going to try to take that away from you and condition that. So if you like your county party showing up, helping on your local issues, school board, local state rep, whatever it is, they're going to try to take that away from you. They're going to say, we run everything. And in fact, there was a discussion between the chair of Macomb County and Mr. Koppas, where Mr. Koppas said out loud in front of other people that if Macomb County did not relent in their effort to take over the party, that he would simply, his words, replace all of you with people who would. And he said that in front of a lot of people. And this is what this lawsuit attempts to do. So if you like working in your county party and that frightens you, I apologize, but it ought to.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to, there's another count here, and then I think we'll be done. Asking that all the DBAs and extensions I filed on for Seymour Street are username Republican are void as a matter of law. Declare that the State Central Committee has no obligation of the negative pledge or the letter agreement. We skipped over those parts, so we'll skip over them again. It is necessary for this honorable court to exercise its power under Michigan MCRs, like the Michigan court rules. Is that right? To adjudicate and declare the rights of the parties in this action, to guide future conduct, as well as preserve and protect plaintiffs' rights. Sure. And determination will resolve the ambiguity from the defendants in proper action. Well, let's see what the court says to that. So wherefore the court through counsel requests this court enter declaratory relief. Michigan Republican, what we just read. Yeah, more or less the same thing again.
The funny thing is that, and what they're asking.
Here's what you were saying earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michigan Republican Party, including not only to the use of the name Michigan Republican. There it is.
Right. So if it's the you know the Clare County Republican Party, they're saying nope, you're not gonna be able to do that anymore. You're gonna have to go through us and pay us and do all that.
Yep. That's right, Jonathan. That's also true. She wants to control the whole party, including the precinct delegates. That's part of the narrative.
I think it goes way beyond that, but I think it's about raiding the bank accounts.
Well, I think it's funny that, like, in the relief at the end, there's no conjunction between they want to own the building now, and then they also want Comerica to stop trying to get their money, and they want those two things to be separate. To the budget committee, they kept saying that we have to sell the building to pay off the debt. But what you guys have to understand, and what I don't think people are understanding, is it's a felony to do that because of how campaign finance works. It is impossible. They would commit a felony if they sold the business and then tried to pay off the debt to Comerica. So even in this filing, they're telling you that what they told the budget committee was incorrect. They want two things out of this that are totally separate and bifurcated. They want the building as ownership, and then they want the line of credit to be held, held abated until after 2024, basically.
Yeah, it's amazing. And folks, I think we're almost to the end here. Count to injunctive relief. Plaintiff reasserts all the allegations again. This is something's missing here. An injunction. An injunction for what? Exactly. An injunction will not harm any public interest. Failure to enter one will harm the 2024 election cycle in Michigan.
What the F have they done?
Well, here's the thing. This isn't what's going to harm the 2024 election cycle, people, delegates, and viewers watching at home. It is the people that are at the top of your party pulling crap like this. They are the issue, right? This is nuts.
This is going to be absolutely. This is going to be, as Maggie indicated and Dan indicated, this is going to be really, really ugly.
Well, it's going to be very expensive. A lawsuit like this, you pull in you got two big law firms now that need to come in on the defendant's side. I would say their combined legal costs probably $300,000 to $400,000 if this goes to trial.
She was sent here to destroy the party. I'm telling you guys, like, I can't say it any more clear. There's nothing she's done that's been positive. It's all by design. Once you shift your thinking to, oh, she's so incompetent, like, oh, she must just not know what's going on. Once you shift your thinking to, what if she was trying to burn it down? This is exactly what you'd do. It's going to disenfranchise. Like, everything stops after this. I can't make this more clear.
To destroy the party, she couldn't be more competent.
Yes, Superman's not coming. Like, this is bad.
Yep. Anyway, let's just finish this up here. The plaintiff, this is again the request for injunctive relief, meaning for the court to step in and order behavior, although what exactly that behavior is seems to be skipped here. And then this paragraph looks like it was copied and pasted out of a generic request for an injunction or a temporary restraining order. Plaintiff will be irreparably harmed if a preliminary injunction is because that's not a sentence. The plaintiff will be irreparably harmed if a preliminary injunction is because a non-compensable injury for which there is no legal measurement of damages or for which blah, blah. This is all just copied and pasted from some.
No, you got to read that because that's where it talks about the election. Where it talks about.
I'll finish this very, very long sentence.
Sorry.
Damages cannot be determined with a sufficient degree of certainty because of the collection action will affect the Michigan Republican Party by causing harm to candidates, by harm to the party, either from further harm to the reputation of the Michigan Republican Party, which can be caused by premature collection efforts for obligations not determined to be owed as negative publicity.
That's what I'm saying. They're saying that this is going to harm candidates. They're harming the candidates. It's them.
Yeah.
Hey, Maggie, in your years of doing this, have you ever had a client a borrower that was in default sue the bank in advance?
And then ask for an injunction because this question is causing reputational harm to the party.
This isn't how this is done. This isn't how it's done. And that's why you have to look at this lawsuit and say there's something in here that they want, and that is the title to the property. Why? Because they attempted to negotiate the problems in paying down on either the principal or the interest. They made misrepresentations as to owning the building, and now they got to frankly cover their ass and get a court to say you own the building. I think this is bank fraud. I'm telling you, a bank, and I don't know if Comerica is a state. I think Comerica might be a federal. If Comerica is a federal bank, then the federal banking laws would apply to any misrepresentation that they've made. Not only, I learned this very early on, not only in the lending process, you can't misrepresent to a bank any information that's on your application or in that process, but it also applies to the workout. So if you misrepresent assets when the bank is looking at forbearing from foreclosing on your property or seizing your assets or garnishing, many banks have what's called an assignment of your accounts receivables. I don't know if there's an assignment here in the documents, but they can forbear from starting that process of collecting. But if you make misrepresentations as to what you owe, that's fraud. It's not just in the lending process, it's in the workout process too. They may have a very serious problem here.
On Rumble, Dare0221 says she publicly said if it all burns down, so be it. Wouldn't surprise me.
That was at Macomb.
Yep. Rumble, Hans EJ, bye-bye. We humored you quite long enough. On Facebook, Joe Grandis says Carpenter is exactly right. They're trying to burn it down. This is not grassroots in operation, and many good delegates have been scammed. Yep. And let's help them move on. The sooner, the better, folks. We don't have another year. In fact, the longer this goes on, the more this festers. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Oh, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because then discovery starts.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Well, okay. There's legal problems, financial problems. I actually meant political problems, but there's all these things. So,
yeah. Just so happens that we're a swing state too. Whether people in this call believe it or not, we are.
Yeah. Wherefore the plaintiff requests this honorable court, after a hearing, to enter a temporary restraining order during the pendency of this case to preserve the status quo. That's rich.
There you go.
That's divorce talk.
Keep things the same by stealing this building. by entering a mutual restraining order to preserve evidence. That's okay. That's okay, sure. Enjoining any further attempts to collect on the document for prohibit Comerica from collecting on their debt. Enjoining any transfers of membership interests or any interests of any kind, the subject of real estate, the headquarters building, enjoining any destruction of documents. That's preservation of documents for discovery. Well, and to enter a permanent injunction in accordance with the court's ruling on declaratory relief to preserve the rights and interests declared. Daniel J. Hartman, P52632. Where have I seen that number before? P52632.
Yeah, Jackson. But
yeah, I've seen that in no, I saw this in this other document. Let me pull it up here.
Well, here's what I don't understand is that they had an influx of cash recently. I don't know, 250,000, 300, and I think it went into a federal account. I think that might have been in November. I'm not quite sure about the timing of that. So by the time that large cash influx came into MRP, they clearly were aware that all they had to do was pay maybe, I don't know, $15,000, and that would have cleared up and cured the default under the line of credit, and all of this could have gone away.
Maggie, so that's incorrect. That's incorrect, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the debt is held in the state account. That's why they're only keeping $5,000 in it. This is all state party debt on the line of credit. It's state activity.
But why was?
Do you guys understand what I'm saying about that, Matt?
I get that, but you can't put $250,000.
No, that's a violation too. It's in the report. It's worse than the Copus one.
You can't.
It's 10,000. 10,000 is the limit.
Is the limit. So why
It's a limit federally.
Correct.
Yeah.
Federally.
Correct, Dan.
That's how they've
But
been
why
doing it.
wasn't the balance put into the administrative account?
Because,
Exactly, man.
Dan, how often do you have to file an administrative account filing at the federal level? Monthly.
Admin, we don't have to file.
I thought it was there
Historically,
was something they have
unless
to file
it's a
monthly.
527. It
Yeah,
depends what kind of ad.
admins are quiet accounts. They're dark money. You can't see what's in it.
Wow.
Depends.
So they could have done it if they wanted to. That's the point. They could have prevented the default by taking some of that money that came in and at least cured the default. They could have done it.
Even worse than that, Comerica today is telling them, you send us $15,700, all this would go away. That's what Comerica is telling them. It's only 15 grand today. If we wrote a $15,000 check today as a state committee, this thing would go away. That's what they're dragging the entire state committee into discovery for. They're burning it down.
Yep. Rolly Mackey says, yes, as a swing state, also remember Michigan is why Trump won, which is why Michigan might be targeted by this bizarre activity for some strange,
she gets it.
sinister purpose. And let's, I think, end the stream on this note. Sean Lee says, fact, God wins. Merry Christmas, everyone. Amen. Well, yes. And that's ultimately how the outcome will be determined. But remember, as they say in Proverbs, the horse is made ready for the day of battle, but the outcome is of the Lord. We're the horses, folks. You got to fight for this stuff. We're not going to just, if we let evil, just run amok over a state party, then things aren't going to change. So
stand up, be brave.
Yep. Yeah. So pray, but act. Tell people they can't be silent in the face of this stuff. And this is a decision, by the way, that every state committee member has to make very soon. And it's also a decision that precinct delegates need to make too. Are you going to be silent? Are you going to confront your state committee members? Are you going to talk to your county parties about getting a resolution passed to confront this stuff? Because I'll tell you, the first time I brought this to my county party, the reaction was, you know what? It's going to damage us in the next re-election because we're going to precinct delegates who are going to say they're going to side with Kristina. I'm like, listen, guys, you sound like Republicans. You sound like Republican politicians.
There's a convention coming up very, very soon. There's a convention very soon.
Very soon.
And remember, January. So they wanted
February, I think, actually.
In February. And they want to. They had announced, Hartman or one of these bozos had announced that they were going to take their modified bylaws and submit them to the precinct delegates for approval of the convention. So when you go
to be ratified, the same way as guys, the same way as Macomb with the vote to overthrow Weiser's decision and suspend the rules. That they're planning a floor maneuver. Be very smart about this, man.
So when you go when you go to your county convention, you have to ask those questions before you pick who's going to go. Say, where do you stand on Kristina? Where do you stand on changing the bylaws? Where do you stand on them taking us over?
And watch the rules.
Today was like, there's going to probably be a lot of discussion about who you support for president to send to the state conventions. And it's like, but Trump's going to win. So what's the big deal?
Big Daddy.
People are going to be asking these questions. No question. They're going to ask, who do you support for president? But the more important question for this upcoming convention cycle is, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to side with Kristina on this stuff or not? So, Kelly asks, it's going to be held in the field. Where's the money to hold a convention? Good question, Kelly.
Good question.
Now, I do want to say this again, because we got to be transparent. We got to be honest. They did pay for Huntington Place. It is paid for. There will be a convention there. They paid $36,000 to host it there, and that has been paid. That's been confirmed by Huntington Place. So I'm not going to I'm not going to let people lie about stuff or say stuff that's not true. I'm here to be truthful. That's my whole thing. So I want that to be known in case anybody.
I'm glad that's paid.
Yeah, same.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Dan and Matt and Maggie and Warren, your information, as always, has been extremely helpful. I hope everybody else found it helpful as well. So if you want to help us reach more Michigan Patriots, the way to do that is to hit that like button, share those links all over the internets, and be sure you subscribe to the channels. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and actually we're even live on X, although I don't see the comments on X, unfortunately. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hopefully we will have another stream during the week to cover some more of the state and local stuff and federal stuff, because there's going to be that big fight over Section 702 renewal. If you came in late on the stream, I talked about that at the very beginning of the stream too. So there you go. All right, guys, this is it. And Don says, now everyone go check your emails. So let's go do that.
Yeah.
And
now, okay, just real quick. I want to plug it real quick, Adam.
Yeah.
So the report is out. I will be doing press all week long. Please read through. It is 140 pages, people, with exhibits and documentation and facts. All right. This was affiant testimony from state committee members, vice chairs, and not just some random guy, right? But some random guy kind of helped collate some of this stuff.
Right
I'll be on Brandenburg tomorrow, so tune into that.
Awesome. All right. As always, guys, thanks for all you do for